good morning, everyone. So, you already saw the video presentation or the screen record of my discussion for CM1. So, this time I'll be discussing about CM2. So, the topic is all about the determinants of demands after receipt. So, the content of this CM or the course material is all about classification of determinants in individual scale, determinants of demands in macro scale, promoters of tourism, and tourism for hospitality supply components. So at the end of these course materials, you will classify the different determinants in individual scale and demands in macro scale. Then differentiate the promoters of tourism and hospitality supply components and analyze the promoters of tourism and hospitality supply components. So the topic for this discussion tackles about the factors to be considered what does tourism demand contributed to the society. So first, there are classification of determinants in individual scale. First, the lifestyle. When you say lifestyle, it is something that towards people how they are going to perceive, how they are going to live their life. So it is something that what society can be labeled to them. The next, life cycle. So there are determinants in lifestyle. So these are the factors that arise from one's life and also part of his or her engagement with various activity to be successful. So first, is income and employment. When you say income and employment, from the words of income, it is something that the people get through out of the job, the employment that they have. So basically, people tend to find job just to suffice their needs for them to survive in daily life, in facing the reality. So there are factors that have influenced both level and nature of tourism and demand. Gross income gives a little indication of money available to spend on tourism. So basically, you can see once a certain city, a certain place nga indot gani, daghang laaganan, so ma-expect gyud ka or mag-presume gyud ka and that city out of the tourism that they have, so earned profit gid na. Like you have noticed when you visit to other places, di ba, mobayad mag environmental fee and other fees nga kinahanglan bayaran within uh, specified area because the government interfere. As what as entailed from the CM1 discussion, the government will interfere to the operations, labi na when you're talking about natural resources, if you're talking about tourism, because that's how the government persuade people to visit their place. And also the way that the government show their best or what they can offer to the place or what they can offer to the people. Paid holiday entitlement. The increase in leisure time experienced by the most individual in the developed world since 1950. So it is very substantial. In the development of Western economies, individuals have anything from 35 to 40 to 50 hours free in a week to their disposal. As what we have, as what you will know, that other places like Singapore, Germany, even in US, basically people work around minimum tag 40 hours or 20 hours per week na dapat ilang work. Then the remaining hours would be the overtime. So most people nga nag-work dito wala na sa ilang minimum rate, ilang wage. They are depending on the overtime because mas dako man ang overtime. Muna mga Pinoy abroad, if nasa sila dito, nag-eskwela sila for tourist visa, ang remaining hours, ginailagay ng i-work, which is makabayad na sila sa ilang tuition. So, mama na ang style nga ilang buhaton nga mga holiday, di na sila ma-absent kay double pay, triple pay man na sa ilaha. Then education and mobility. The better educated the individual, the higher the awareness of travel opportunities and susceptibility to the information. Media, advertising, and sales promotion. Of course, they notice or it's undeniable when people have higher education attainment or even aware or being wise to what is the trend nowadays, mas more gyud na sila to travel. Mas more gyud na sila nga kabalo nga aware nga naay sale, naay kuan promotion and ana because they're wide reader. Diba compare sa uban nga mga lang ay kalibok ko yung bayad lang minimum. So yan ana. Race and gender. Most survey indicated that whites and males are highest level of effective demand of tourism. However, change in the society acting to complicate these rather simplistic view. For example, in Japan, office ladies are important consumer for travel. So, the race and gender. Basically, we have noticed in the Philippines that every summer, karon summer period naman, daghan kaayo mga tourists nga mo ari. Labi na, it seems like we normalize everything na. Like, excuse me, we end to the devastating part of the pandemic. Diba? So, mga tao, they visit to the Philippines, come and go na. It will be easier for them na to visit Philippines. So, next, life cycle determinants. These are the factors that automatically come during the lifespan of a person, which may discourage or encourage the travel propensity of a person. Domestic age refer to the age of which in which a person belongs to. Like domestic age, the level or the range of age. Like for example, between the 20 to 25. So, asa ka na belong? Asa ka nga genre? Asa ka nga age na belong? So, ano, domestic age. Life cycle determinants can brought as a chronological age. When you say chronological age, it should be arranged so based on, like ito kasi maguwang ko og buwan, maguwang adlaw, so arrange siya according to the people or to the event that happened. Tabo siya 1-1 sa record, 2-2 siya record sa ana. So domestic age refers to the stage in a life cycle reached by an individual. And different stages are characterized by distinctive holiday, demand, and level of propensity. Each stage life cycle has first preoccupation, mental absorption from the motivations. When you say preoccupations, just simply absorb lang sa ka-idea, naminaw lang sa ka, wala pa siya nimo na-capture, wala pa nimo na-analyze kung saan pasabot. So, when you say interest, it is the feelings of individual would like to do. Like, for example, what you ought to do, what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go. So, ni ana na siya. Because that's what you want. Like, for example, people tend to visit a place because they wanted to experience the beaches, the fine sand in Palawan, the fine sand in Boracay. So, yung ana. Is this your interest? Or also some other people wanted to visit to Ilocos because they want to experience the historic, the aged nga experience panahon sa mga Kastila, sa panahon ni Marcos, so ana, ma-feel na nimo. It depends to a certain place what they can offer. So lain-lain in every place. Like for example, in Talisay, we have this Lechon Festival. We have this lechon nga pagkaon every Saturday and Sunday. So people tend to visit to Talisay because they wanted to eat the crispiness of the skin or the kubal. Or sometimes they wanted to hear and go to Talisay because of the beaches. Diba? So lain-lain. Activities, it's an action of an individual. So it's an act of someone. So determinants of tourism demands on the individual scale or micro scale. So stage in domestic life cycle are childhood, adult, emptiness, young, marriage, and old age. So the sequence or the endeavor of one's life from baby to old one. So determinants of demand of macro scale. There are levels. So level of urbanization. The more urbanized in a country is, the more will be the demand for tourism among the population. Yes, when you say urban, it is something that talking about the city. So the more establishment in the city, the more tourists will visit. The more things to visit, like for example, ang park, ang dagat, ang falls, ang mountain, ang volcano, ang cold spring, hot spring. So lain-lain man in every place. But if it is properly developed, it is properly, like for example, in Moalboal or even in Alcoy, Dalaget. So people tend to visit because of the experience that they wanted to experience on the place. So it can cost more tourists. And once there are more tourists in a certain place, the more income that this barangay will receive or the city will receive. Then economic development. Countries that are more developed produce more tourists than other countries. Of course, once the economy is properly developed, people are not hesitant to visit. People are not afraid to go to a place because they feel safety. That's one of the things that a tourist should consider. Next, political factor. So, political atmosphere of the country can either encourage or discourage the travel propensity of the population. Of course, if nice ang certain place, the government properly manage, the government properly help the owners or the entrepreneurs of a certain place nga wala nag hinije, people tend to visit because the experience manggod is very important. Ma-feel nila nga they are valued, na-feel nila nga limpyo, nga safe, walay tulis, walay kawat. They wanted to visit. And as a matter of fact, these people nga naka-experience og bati sa usa ka place, moingon gyud na sila mga friends nga bati. So di na mo adto dito. The power of mouth, the power of social media is very important. It's technological factor. When you say technological, it talks about computer, it talks about technology that these organization or these businesses are using. Yeah. Next is the example of social factors. So determinant population density and distribution, technological, IT, transport, leisure, economic determinants as level development, then political factors such as government involvement, subsidy and prevention travel. So, muna siyang example of the major influences on tourism demand. So, economic factors. So, na example, i-indicate dara. So, you just simply read that, you simply analyze those things because it is understandable. So, the demographic and tourism. So, na example, that high circulatory phase, the early expanding phase, late expanding, low stationary. Then demand for international domestic, so ay volume, value, visitor profile statistics. So mo na siya, every time you enter sa airport or sa seaport, ikuha ang gunang attendance, kuha ang gunang list sa mga musakay o sa munaog para they can easily evaluate, they can easily analyze if something happened. If the boss or the management asked for the data. So let's proceed to forecasting. So you read na lang those demand for international domestic tourists and demographic commercial tourism. So forecasting of tourism. There are two methods or techniques, the quantitative and the qualitative. When we say quantitative, it is something that costs or something that use of numbers, while qualitative is description. Sometimes in this discussion, qualitative techniques can be a causal models or non-causal model. So, causative or causal na, non-causative or non-causal. So, qualitative is Delphi technique or scenario writing. When you say causative model, these model attempt to predict changes in the variables causes of the reason to demand to analyze relationship of the variables and the demand. When you say causal, makaingon ta anong ni mahal ang kuan, anong daghan og weekdays tao o gamay ang weekend. So based on the data that we gather, we can simply analyze, we can simply simply determine based on the information that we gather. While non-causal or causative, these are modeled often to time series model. So especially, they rely on the explorating future trend. So we base on the trend that happens in the society. So it varies every now and then because people's wants and demands will change. Mausap ang ilang gusto. Then qualitative, from the words of qualitative, it is something that it is scripted in nature, storytelling, purely explaining, expropriating information. So, mga siya examples of qualitative. Delphi technique. So, this technique relies on the panel of experts, deliver a consensus view on the future. So, it is something that a consensus with the majority. Like, for example, there will be five panel. So, each of the panel will be having their information, there will be inputs or outputs Sum up, to sum up everything, so mauna siyang mausa ang realization. So the graph, you need to read na lang the graph. Excuse me. So next, the issues of forecasting in tourism. So includes accuracy, data, variable, outside and control of tourism, identifying quantifying variable. When you say accuracy, it is something manggod which we cannot force to have it to happen. Like for example, when you forecast manggod, panglantaw manggod siya in future. Tagpingon ta, ikasabado daghan og tao. So nangagpas ka, padung pa man in the future man, you cannot guarantee, you can get the accuracy. If daghan pa tao or wala. So data, available data in good in tourism because the data kung unsay makuha, magather mo ora man. We can control data man. We can control, we can manipulate data. So we're just dependent kung unsa ang available. Next, variable, they are outside forecast. So visitor forecast statistics like the visitors, the age, group type, nationality, length of stay. So kana makuha na nimo because people tend to answer man if there will be survey nga pagahimuon. And then promoters of tourism. When you say promoters of tourism, these are people, persuaded people to visit to their place or to visit someone or to visit something. So sa particular, like example, what happened to last week, opening sa Icon, di ba? Daghan kaayo og tao sa bar. So bisag uwan, daghan kaayo tao puno kaayo because there's somebody who promoted nga open na di ay. So people experience the happiness, the lingaw, nga wala nato na-experience 2 years ago. Diba? Because of this pandemic. So, tourism and hospitality supply components. So, na five categories: the natural resources, infrastructure, superstructure, transportation, and transportation equipment, hospitality resources. So, these five are the things that people tend to consider sometimes or most often before they visit to a place. Ano man, natural resources, ay naailaga na ni hot spring na cold spring dito. Infrastructure, indot og daan, dili maglisod, dili kuyaw. Safety ra basag uwan pa. Superstructure, the facilities of the airport or the bigger kuan na nga indot ang airport, indot ang plane. Like before, when I first traveled to Boracay, gamay kaayo ang aeroplano mo, palid mo, watch me web, watch me nene, kung maghangin. But karon na nidagko nga mga airplane. So, di ba? It need to be developed, it need to be changed every now and then. Then transportation and transportation equipment. Of course, when you visit a place na idaghang laagan na idaghang kasakyan, dila kay kang problema kung unsay masakyan nimo. The transportation, same thing. So mode of transport, rail, water, road, and air. So mode of transportation mo na sakyanan nimo kung pa sakyanan ka, pa aeroplano, pa tubig. So mo na siya. Rail transport pertains to movement of goods from one passenger using railway train. Long distance train, high speed train, so nalain na in every city what they can offer. Like in Japan, bullet train. Like even in Singapore to Malaysia. Kaya nun mo mga pila ka minutes sila. So yun, ana. So, there are various determining factors of tourism which are follows. The industrial development, the wealth of the society, development of the holiday, geographical status, a situation, economic stability, transportation facility, religious places. So dahil lain ni siya ang factor why people visit. Like industrial development into ang lugar. When wealth the society, makita nimo daghan mga pagkaon, lami ang mga pagkaon, lami ang mga seafoods. When you go sa Tubantayan, di ba? Lami kaayo sila healthy, kaayo ilang seafood or lami kailang seafoods. Development holiday, like for example, a remark from travel to Europe because of society has accepted the need the importance of holiday. So, geographical situation, dapat sa dagat, mountain, or economic sustainability or stability. Yung dito kaya kayo mapalit, daghan og mga malls, so transportation facility, religious places, so understandable na. Natural beauty, accommodation of better facilities, equipment, place to visit, accessibility, so kana sila tanan, weather, season, The advantage of tourism. So already discussed this one from the previous course materials. So natural economy. Ang importante is tourism. First, it directly helps in developing the economy of the country as the tourists spend money while staying, coming and visiting the country, of course. Diba? When you visit a place, mukasto gid ang tao, mukaon gid ang tao. So indeed, it can it can collect income sa city. Employment generation. So from the word itself, employment, the more tourism it will have, the more people that they need for employment or for workers. Then cultural integration. Cultural, the concept itself, the norms, the characters, the behavior, the appearance, the physique of the area. Then national integration is a development of peace, oneness, and unity among people of one nation. Environmental, di ba? We can see the ana ada sa buhol ang dito dagat, nasa buhol ang chocolate here. So we are being aware to what a certain place then again to offer. Then foreign currency, the money itself, the foreign language, the way they communicate to people. As I said before, the thing that among of the Asian countries I visited, ang dili na kaya akong ganahan is the Thailand. Why? Lami lang food. Lingaw ang experience in terms of communication lang or the foreign language. Because in Thailand, people or most of the people at the airport doesn't know how to speak English. So maglisod jud ka og kuan labi na asa ang taxi. The airport are so big. Depende sa tuwa, makita ka ang taxi ka, makita ka portahan. Lahat dito ilang mo airport, mag mall, na isod sa mall ang airport. So maglisod ka to identify. Okay? So now, that's the end of my discussion for CM2. This time, you need to answer the knowledge building, the critical, and the creating part. But before you answer, let us wait. Just wait for the Google form I'll be sending later para adto niyo i-transfer in your answer. Same sa CM1. Okay? Then again sir, whether BDO mo, whether ansa mo, kung pwede, is send answers sa Google form. Do I make myself clear? Okay? So, that's it for my discussion. So, thank you. So, I'll be posting this to the YouTube and I'll send you the link. Bye and have a nice day.